All right, all right. I hope you can hear me okay. We're just getting started, of course. Looks like there is one person on the call or on the live, I should say. If you have a question, feel free to go ahead and type it in now. If you're just here to kind of hang out and see what we talk about today, then just give me a few moments. I'm going to wait for a few more people to pop in before I go ahead and get started with today's topic. All right, all right. While we are waiting, actually, I need to get something that's under my computer. There we go. All right. While we are waiting, oh, good. I see more and more people are popping in. Awesome. Uh, if you have a question that you want me to answer, then please go ahead and type it in the chat right now. While we're waiting for questions and or a few more people to show up, I just want to remind you all of a few things. First one is if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. That really helps the algorithms. My content here is really suppressed, and when you do things like subscribe or like the videos or share them with your friends, it helps kind of override the algorithm so that more people can see the videos. If you ask a question here, or if you just appreciate what I'm sharing with you, you can always do a super chat and share a little gift of appreciation. That helps keep the content coming. It's really hard to monetize here on YouTube when you are dealing with anything sex related. They basically just crush all your monetization. And of course, if you're looking for a coach, anything around your sex, love, and relationship, I would ask that you please consider scheduling a strategy call with me and potentially hiring me as your coach. That is primarily how I make a living, is through coaching with men, women, and couples. So I'd really appreciate that. I've also got some great online courses and products and things like that all on my website. So just wanted to share all of that while we're waiting for people to come in. I see a few have already dropped out because they didn't want to hear me promoting. Anyway, if you are here and you have a question that you want to ask me, please type it in the chat. While I'm waiting for that, I want to talk a little bit today about intimacy. So, my latest podcast episode that's out is titled something along the lines of "Could intimacy be uh, the key to a great relationship?" or something like that. And what we were discussing in there was what really is intimacy. And one of the reasons why we have to define that is because I was just talking a moment ago about how suppressed my content is and how hard it is to, be able to monetize and, talk about certain things on the platforms. One of the things that people have done over the years to sort of get around that is to substitute the word intimacy for sex. So when you see people saying, I'm an intimacy coach, they're trying to say they're a sex coach. When you see people selling for sex, so when you see people saying, I'm an intimacy coach, they're trying to say they're a sex coach. When you see people selling products that are intimacy products, they're selling sex toys generally. So they've they've sort of confused the language by substituting the word intimacy for sex. Now, is sex a deeply intimate act? Of course it is. Absolutely, without a doubt. But is intimacy only sex? And the answer to that is no. No, it's not. And so that's something that I hope that more people would understand, that intimacy encompasses a whole lot more than just sex, a whole lot more than just, physical intimacy. And so that's kind of the big point that I want people to understand. Well, okay, if intimacy then isn't sex, then what exactly is intimacy? And really, what intimacy is the connection that you share with your partner and the level of depth of that connection. So, intimacy is, what kind of conversations do you have? Is it just like, how was your day kind of stuff? Or do you really talk about how somebody's feeling, how they're doing, what's important to them in their life, what their goals are, what they want to accomplish, in the next 5 years or whatever. So, having those kinds of conversations are ways that you can deepen and increase the intimacy, how well you know your partner. Do you know all their, you know, little intricacies and things that make them who they are? I remember when Celine passed, who, if you're new to the channel, Celine was my wife. We used to do this work together. There's plenty of her videos on the channel if you want to learn from her, and many people still do. Um, but when she passed, I remember, my father came to visit, for support generally. And, he was asking me all kinds of questions. Well, do you know this? And do you know that? And, he was just trying to, your brain's not really thinking right when you're in that place. And so having somebody that can think of the details for you is kind of nice. Anyway, he's asking me all those types of questions. And he was doing it from a point of view of like, it's going to take you some time to pull together all of these answers. And one of the things I said to him was, I know the answer to every single one of those questions off the top of my head. I don't have to look anything up. I know everything because I knew everything about her, because we took the time to really develop and nurture the intimacy in the relationship. Um, there's lots of different ways that you can do that. A great way to start, especially if it's a new relationship, is there's a whole bunch of card games that you can pick up. There's a ton of them on Amazon. You can just type in like relationship card games, and they're just these card decks, and they have a bunch of questions on them, on the cards. And you just can randomly pick cards and ask each other questions. And, some of them will be lighthearted and easy, and some of them will be a bit more challenging. There'll be deeper questions. There'll be things that make you think, right? So that's a great way to get to know somebody and to deepen the intimacy. And I think that's a part of intimacy that's often overlooked, is people don't think about, oh, you mean actually getting to know who you are as a person, what you like, what you don't like, what your dreams are, what you want to create in the world. That is a part of establishing intimacy. Let's see here. Fiona, hi. Can you talk a little more about prostate massage? I forgot my glasses, by the way, which is why I had to move the microphone out of the way and look closer. I left my glasses downstairs. Yeah, I can absolutely talk a bit about prostate massage, and then we'll come back to this idea of intimacy, which is kind of our overall theme. But I love the fact that you're asking questions. That's what I'm here for. I just kind of prepare content so I have something interesting to share with all of you, just in case there aren't any questions. Um, so, prostate massage. Okay, let's talk about the prostate first. Obviously, the prostate is present in males. It actually surrounds the urethra, and it is responsible for producing what is called prostatic fluid, which is basically the lubricant and part of your ejaculate. So, not, when a man ejaculates, what we call his ejaculate, all of that semen that comes out, it's not all sperm, it's mixed. And so the sperm come from the testes, and then the other fluid comes from the prostate. They mix together, and that's your ejaculate. And so when we're talking about prostate health, that impacts a lot of things, including the health of the semen that you are ejaculating. So as men age, they can tend to have problems with their prostate, the most common being an enlarged prostate. Another common one being prostate cancer. And the challenge with that is most of the treatments that they have when you have different issues with your prostate have a potential side effect of sexual dysfunction. So they can prevent you from getting an erection. Uh, they can impact your ability to, have healthy ejaculate. Let's say if you're, still wanting to have children, or if, some people just like the fact that they have volume, right? Even if they're not trying to conceive. So prostate issues can affect those things. Uh, so therefore, maintaining prostate health is important. And so, obviously, the main ways that you can maintain prostate health is through leading a healthy lifestyle. So, making sure that you're eating right, making sure that you're exercising enough, drinking enough water, sleeping enough, managing your stress levels. All of those things are really important for your overall health, including the health of your prostate. In addition to that, you can potentially do prostate massage as a way to stimulate the prostate and keep it healthy. So think about, because it's controversial. Let me just say, first of all, at least in the mainstream medical world, it's considered controversial whether or not prostate massage actually has any health benefits. My personal feeling on it is that it does indeed have health benefits. And you have to think of it like this. A lot of the treatments that you would get for various different things that might be going on, with your body, are treatments designed to increase blood flow and circulation. So, whenever you increase blood flow and circulation, you generally increase the health of the tissue. Because if you get more blood flow, that increased blood flow will help deliver more nutrients to the area and also help remove more of the waste products and toxins. So, it significantly helps um, the health of the tissue and any sort of healing or repair that has to happen. So, massage does that. Any type of massage, right? You have sore muscles from, sports activity. A massage helps clear out that lactic acid, right? And promote circulation to do that. There's a huge trend right now in red light devices, right? Red light panels and pads for all sorts of different things. That red light is actually penetrating, it's creating heat, it's creating expansion in the tissue, and it's also helping to increase circulation. So I say all that to say that any technique that can potentially increase blood flow and circulation to an area has the potential to be healing or beneficial. And so that is largely what is happening with prostate massage. Believe it or not, you can make progress with if you have an enlarged prostate, if you have some pain as a result of that, you can possibly, fi- I don't want to say fix that, but you can treat that. You can get benefit from doing some prostate massage because you are stimulating it, because you are increasing blood flow and you're helping uh, to release any tension in that area. So, those who don't know where the prostate is located, it's basically underneath the perineum. The only way to really access it is through the anus. Um, because it's pretty deeply internal. Uh, So it's hard to get to is the point, and it's hard to just massage, and it's hard to stimulate circulation and blood flow to it, unless you are doing an intentional prostate massage going through the anus. So, um, I have seen so Celine used to be a certified sexological body worker. Certified sexological body workers in the state of California were legally allowed to touch people and, uh, put their hands on genitals and things like that. Um, that was something that was legal here if you were certified at the time. That has shifted since, but back in the day, that used to be a thing. So Celine had done a lot of prostate massage on men, helping them with things like pain, like difficulty getting erections, stuff like that. And she really had amazing success with men. There were some men that, on the first time they showed up and received a prostate massage, it was just painful. They couldn't take it. It would have to be a short session, but over time, after coming back, a number of times and receiving it, the tension would start to release and they would have less and less pain. And, to the point where they could actually shift it away from, oh, this is painful, to this actually is starting to feel pleasurable now. And of course, that takes us into a whole other area of prostate massage because thus far, I've really only been talking about the health aspect of it, right? But there is a whole pleasure aspect to prostate massage as well. And as long as men can get over the stigma of somebody sticking something in my butt, which is still a thing, there's still a lot of men out there who feel like even a finger or a prostate massager, specific device designed to massage the prostate. If that goes in, somehow that makes them gay and it's a problem. And I just want to say now that, having somebody insert something in your butt does not make you gay. The only thing that makes you gay is you're gay. In other words, nothing really makes you gay, right? Um, So you don't have to worry about that. Any shame, fear, stigma that you might have around it, there's no need for it. You can absolutely let that go. It is perfectly normal. And again, if you want to stimulate the prostate, it is the only way to get in there and do so. Uh, so don't worry about that. You can let go of that. So once you've been able to let go of any fear or stigma around that, right? Then you can use it, one, of course, to stimulate blood flow and circulation in your prostate to help maintain a healthy prostate as you age. It's really interesting when you look at some of the stats on, prostate issues. Um, Unfortunately, in today's society, they will tell you that, pretty much every man will die with prostate cancer. That doesn't mean every man will die of prostate cancer. It means every man will die with prostate cancer. So, what they mean by that is that over time, if you live long enough, every man will have some cancer cells in their prostate. Fortunately, prostate cancer tends to grow very slowly and it takes a long period of time to develop. And so many, many men who develop it in their older years, there's no need to treat it because by the time it's actually a problem, they'll already be dead. And the treatment is potentially more dangerous than just not treating it. So, that's sort of the good news on that one. But point simply being that um, keeping your prostate healthy is important because those stats are the way they are. And even when you step outside of talking about prostate cancer, there's still a lot of men who have enlarged prostates. And remember, the prostate surrounds the urethra, so that can create difficulty with urination and other problems. So you really want to keep your prostate healthy. Celine doing what she did, and me being significantly older than her, she was very much aware of this, and she made it a point to do prostate massage once a month, just to make sure that everything felt good. And, as somebody who's done it enough, uh, would be able to tell if it was starting to feel hard or if there were, potentially weird bumps or anything on it. So it's also kind of like a good sort of basic check uh, to see how it's doing. It's very similar to what your doctor will do. He'll actually palpate the prostate as well through the anus. They'll also do a PSA test. Um, so uh, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great thing to do, and if you don't have an actual like health problem with it, even though it's still good to do for all the reasons I talked about already, you can kind of incorporate it in as a sort of a dual thing in a sense that oh yeah, we're doing this to help maintain a healthy prostate, and at the same time, you're getting some pleasure out of it. Uh, so one of the things that Celine used to do is, she used to say, "I'm going to give you a prostate massage. All you have to do is lay back, relax. You can close your eyes if you want. You don't have to do anything. Just relax and receive." And that is not something that we as men get to do very often, to be honest. Generally, we're much more active. We're much more taking charge, or at least we should be. Especially if we're concerned about our partner's pleasure. And so the opportunity for us to just sort of kick back and close our eyes and just receive pleasure doesn't happen all that much. And so prostate massage can be a nice way to do that. Now, one thing you can also do is you can combine genital massage with prostate massage. So you can have one hand stimulating the prostate while the other one is stimulating his genitals. And that combination together, most men, unless they're having problems with their prostate, most men will find that actually to be really, really pleasurable, really enjoyable. So, I think it's a great thing to do, especially as men get older. It, in my opinion, does have potential health benefits to it, as well as the possibility of just experiencing more pleasure, just another way to add pleasure into your sex life. Now, if you don't have a partner, the question becomes, what do you do then? Do you go find somebody that does prostate massage? Well, you could. It's a little trickier to do these days. I don't know of anywhere else where that is technically legal, other than maybe through a doctor's office, which may or may not be easy to make happen. Um, but you can actually do it yourself. I was not planning on talking about this today, so I didn't have it handy. Let me see if I can get my chair back here. Ah. But this is a device. Yeah, it's handy. It's sitting literally right on my floor with a whole pile of sex toys and things like that. I will have a video coming out soon that I did with a colleague of mine named Karen Bigman. And we had this whole room full of sex toys, and we talked about each one and sort of what it was, what it could be used for, how it works, that sort of thing. So keep an eye out. That'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But one of the things we showed in that video was this device. It's called the Helix. It's made by a company called Aneros. And Aneros, right? This way, Aneros. And this is something that you can use. It's specifically designed and shaped to be able to put pressure, gentle pressure on the prostate. So as a man, you can use this on your own prostate. Uh, and you can use this by itself. You can combine this with a self pleasure practice. Uh, if you use this and you keep it in long enough and you don't just go straight for an ejaculation, um, you can actually create on your own what's called milking the prostate, which means that the stimulation to the prostate will help it release some of that prostatic fluid, and you'll actually see some of that sort of clear, really um, slick kind of like lubrication will start to come out of the end of your penis, and you know that you've been doing good uh, with massaging the prostate. If you're interested in this, actually, you can go to my website at kevinanthonycoaching.com. Go to products, and there is a link to it right there. It is an affiliate link, so I would make a few small dollars off your purchase. It doesn't cost you anything more, so if you're going to buy it, might as well share the love over here. But that is a great device that you can use. So, yeah, um, that is my little spiel on prostate massage. I'm a fan of it. I think it has health benefits, and you can do it by yourself or with a partner. And I think it's great. If you have any other questions about that, let me know. In the meantime, I see Joanne is here. Hey, Joanne, thanks for showing up again. I always appreciate it. She had some questions too. Let's see what Joanne said. I explained that texting was not really revealing enough and wanted to know him more. He replied that my being cautious was my problem and I was an overthinker. Interesting. So then you continue on. This definitely sent red flags. I stopped the conversation. He reached out again and asked for my number and accused me of playing games. Is this what online dating is? I felt temporarily hurt. Okay. So this goes along with what I was talking about earlier with the idea of creating intimacy. So what you were trying to do, you said texting was not really revealing enough and wanted to know him more. So you were trying to establish some intimacy there. You were trying to get deeper at, getting to know him. Unfortunately, text messages just aren't a good way to do that. I have a hierarchy with communication. That hierarchy is in person is always at the top, right? Two people in front of each other having a conversation. If you can't do that, we have all kinds of video messaging apps now, right? All the different messaging apps you can do video calls, whether it's FaceTime or Signal or WhatsApp or whatever. You can do video calls. You get to see each other as well as hear each other. After that, you can leave voice messages. After that, you've got basically email and text, So the reason why I have that hierarchy is because communication is a lot more than just the words that we speak. And so when you're actually talking to somebody, you've got facial expressions that you can read. You've got intonation, right? You've got volume. You've got all these different things that convey what it is, you know, that you're trying to say. So, like, for instance, I could say, "Hey, let's get out of here." Or I could say, "Let's get out of here." Right? Like, one of them is like, "Yeah, we're bored, let's go." The other one is, "Oh my God, there's an emergency, we need to get out of here." Both are the exact same words. The problem with text message is they're just the exact same words, and you don't know which one the person's trying to say. So, one, Joanne, I applaud you for trying to establish deeper intimacy with him. And I would suggest that you try to do that when you can get to a deeper level. Now, early on, when you're talking with somebody in an app, like a dating app, and you basically only have text, you have messaging back and forth, do the best you can to, ask some good questions and, get to know somebody. Uh, but don't worry too much about going too deep because it's really hard to go deep in just messages like that. So get it to the point where you can actually feel safe enough to get on like a video call with the person. Now, when it comes to dating apps, this is a little tricky, and I'll tell you why. The dating apps themselves will tell you not to really message outside of the dating apps, to like stay in the app with the messaging. There's a reason for that. And that reason isn't just because they want you to stay on the app using the app. It's not just because they are on the app using the app. It's not just because they are watching how long you're on the app, although they are doing that. The real reason is because they can actually monitor those communications. right? And they also have a record. So let's say there's a predator on the site and he's trying to, prey on, women. They can start to see those patterns. If something actually happens, they have a written record they can give to police and stuff like that. So they are trying to keep you in the messaging apps for your own safety. And I think that is actually a good thing. However, um, you can't stay in just messaging in the app forever. So at a certain point, you need to either make a date and meet them in person or potentially first get on a video call. So once you are able to do that, that I think is a better place to be able to seek more depth in the conversation. And keep in mind also that when it comes to online dating, a lot of people, especially ones who've been doing it for a while, honestly, they're a little bit jaded because they've had a lot of bad experiences. And so they're more guarded with what type of information they're willing to share. And so if they're not super forthcoming right from the start, it's okay. Don't hold that against them. Wait to see if they start to open up more over time. Uh, so that's one thing. The other thing is men will often tend to take a bit more time to open up. Unfortunately, not as many men are in touch with their own feelings. Uh, they tend to, have a lot more difficulty in sharing those feelings. And those are the types of things, often when a woman says to you, I want more depth, I want more intimacy. What she's really saying is, I want to know how you feel, right? The problem is, as men, we're not taught or trained to really feel. In fact, we're mostly taught and trained to not feel. And that's a problem, and this is something that we as men have to learn, and we have to work at a balance of, you know, feeling the feels, but also um, not allowing ourselves to get too lost in the emotions of it. Uh, which, we could do a whole talk on exactly what I mean by that in and of itself. But, because a lot of women will say, well, what's wrong with being lost in the feelings and the emotions? Well, that's easy for you to say as a woman because you are a feeling and emotion being. That's how you operate. That's what estrogen does to you, right? You're an estrogen dominant, being, and it's all about emotions and flow. But for those of us who are testosterone driven beings, it's not really the case for us, right? So for us as men, like our healthy balance is I want to recognize I have emotions. I want to know what those emotions actually are. I want to allow those emotions to flow through me, but I don't want those emotions to take over, right? And incapacitate me from my ability to step up and, be a strong man and lead and do, the difficult things in life that need to happen. Uh, so, that's a balance that we as men are pretty much all working on. And so, just keep that in mind when you are, dealing with men and trying to get them to open up more. We're not used to it. Many men aren't trained to do it. It's going to take them some time to slowly open up, and it will definitely help more if it's done in the context of, in person, or at least video calls, in person, or at least video calls. Once you've gotten to know each other a little bit, once there's some trust and safety established, that's going to get a lot easier. Let's see. I just wanted to hear a voice, hear laughter instead of laugh out loud. Yeah, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with the request that you made. Um, I don't know exactly how you say, like, so what you wrote is I explained that texting was not really revealing enough and wanted to know him more. Um, rather than making it about what texting isn't doing, it would probably make it better if you talked about what it is that you actually wanted. So what I mean by that is saying, this texting it's just not working. Like, I'm not getting to know enough. It's not revealing enough about who you are, right? I need more than that. Rather than saying that, just saying something along the lines of, I'd really love to get to know you at a deeper level. And for me, what that would look like would be, having like a voice call or something so I could see your face and feel you more. And like that would help me feel really connected to you. uh, that I think would be a better way of approaching it so that he doesn't feel sort of defensive. Like, what do you mean this isn't enough? And, what, boy, I don't understand what you mean. So rather than this isn't enough for me, make it about, what would be even better? You know what I would like even more than that? That would really help me get to know you and I would really appreciate would be if we could get on a video call. Right. And, just no pressure. Like you can let him know, like, doesn't have to happen tomorrow. No pressure at all. But I'd really just love to see your face, hear your voice, get to know you a bit better through that. I think that would be a good way to approach it. Let's see. Evelyn says, thank you for having these live streams. I've been following you for a while and have learned a lot. Well, you are welcome. I really appreciate that feedback, especially since I'm getting started on the live streams here. Having people show up and appreciate that they're happening is really important because it motivates me to keep doing them. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for following me. I assume here on YouTube or any of the other places you might follow me. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok now as well. And of course, my website, my podcast, and YouTube here. So wherever you're following me, thank you. I really appreciate it. Um, and I'm really glad that people learn from my stuff. I mentioned this in the last stream, like, because of what I do, which is sex and relationship, I can't really make money off of YouTube. YouTube actually just costs me money. It's an expense. Same with my podcast. I mean, yeah, I do get sponsors and I do make some money, but that money doesn't even cover the cost of production of these things. Um, so, why do I keep doing it? Well, there's two primary reasons. One of them is to help people. That is a large part of why I do this work. I've often said to myself, if I were wealthy, and I never had to work a day in my life, I would still do this stuff. I probably wouldn't do it as hard because I wouldn't push myself so hard. Um, but I would still do it because I love doing it and I love helping people. So I'm glad that people show up and gets to, take in my free content, whether it's lives or, my other videos, podcasts, whatever they be, and learn something. Of course, the other reason why I do these is so that y'all know that I actually exist because the way I actually make a living is through doing one-on-one coaching with people. That's what pays the bills. And so if clients aren't hiring me, I'm not making any money. And so, being able to put this content out there, people get to say, oh, okay, one, I know he exists. And two, I like what he's saying. And, three, hopefully they'll resonate with my style and my personality. And they'll go, you know what? I need some help, and I think this person might be the right one to help me. So it's a win-win. You guys get free content. I potentially get clients, and that's really a large part of why I keep doing what I am doing. Uh, so again, thanks, Evelyn, for showing up and for following. If you have a question, let me know. Let's see. Francine says, hi, Kevin. I shared my need for oral to my boyfriend. I got it last Friday and he was awful. What can I say or do to help him learn? Okay, this is a great question because you are in a very delicate position right now. In that, you made it clear that this was a need of yours and something that you wanted. He's actually taken a step to do it, right? But he wasn't good at it. And the reason why this is delicate is because if you approach it the wrong way, you can demotivate, disincentivize him from wanting to do it again. And then you're really not going to be happy, right? So you're in a delicate position. I'm glad that you have come here and asked this question. So, first thing is, do not tell him that he's bad at it, right? One, he might think he's great at it. Two, he may have gotten good feedback from previous partners who were like, yeah, that's great, right? Because what each woman needs and likes is a little bit different. Three, he might just genuinely be bad at it and not know it, right? So rather than that, don't say, well, you're bad at it. While he's doing it, just gently guide him and say, like, "Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that. But you know what works even better for me is if you do it like this." Or, "Oh, I really love it when you do it like this." I really love it when, you put your whole mouth, around my vulva, or I really love it when, you suck on my clitoris gently, or, whatever it is. Really motivate him and teach him through positive reinforcement. That really is the best way to help him out. And, you can make it a game too. You can be like, "Hey, would you be willing to try this technique or that technique?" Or, that kind of stuff. Those are all things that you can do to help. What? Pause one moment here. That was bizarre. Something just totally, some news thing started totally running in the background of my computer. Nothing I even had open or clicked on. That was bizarre. I apologize for that. Anyway, we were talking about motivating him to get better at oral sex. So, here's another thing I think that helps in this regard. And I've seen this approach work with other partners. I've actually done the reverse of this, which is, I've had partners in the past who didn't really give a lot of oral sex. And, as a man, obviously that's something that we love. I know women love it too. But, as men, we love to receive oral sex pretty regularly. So rather than saying, "Hey, how come you don't give me oral sex very frequently?" Or, "Do you not like it?" or anything like that, what I've done in the past is just started giving them a lot more oral, and just, offering it to them as something, which I enjoy giving it anyway, so there's nothing wrong with that. But making oral a much more common, act in the relationship to help motivate them, right? To, go, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is something that we could do more often." So I would suggest too that if you're not already, to offer oral to him. You can even suggest, doing 69 positions so you get to pleasure each other with oral. So those are all things that you can do to help motivate him. The thing is you want him to be motivated to give you oral. One of the biggest complaints I hear from women is that men don't like giving oral, and that they just don't do it enough. And there can be multiple reasons for that. I worked with a client last year, it was a couple actually. And one of the complaints they had when they came to me was that he never gave her oral, right? But he always wanted her to give him oral. And when we kind of dug down into what was going on with that, it turns out that for whatever reason, he had some conception, some idea in his mind that it was gross or potentially harmful to him, which was interesting. We never really got down to where he got that idea from, but somehow he got that idea. And so I worked with him on talking about, how not only is it not harmful for you to give oral sex to her, but it's even potentially beneficial because if she has a healthy vaginal flora, right, he could actually, by giving her oral, receive some of those healthy some of that healthy microbiome, right? Which could potentially be good for his own gut microbiome. So there's a bunch of research on this. I have actually researched this and talked about it in the past. There's a bunch of research on the potential health benefits to giving oral sex, and that is potentially one of them. So once we were able to reframe that for him, suddenly like giving oral sex was something he wanted to do more often. So uh, you want to keep him motivated is the point, and you want to motivate him through um, positive reinforcement. Now, let's see. Ooh, you had a follow up to that. What did you say? I will definitely use your suggestions and see what happens. He's always happy to accept without reciprocating. He never went down on his last girlfriend of 8 years. Wow, 8 years and never went down on her. Okay. You know, when I hear something like that, one of the questions I always have is basically a question I ask in coaching all the time, which is what's in the way? And it may have been something like I was just sharing with you with my previous client. Once we found what was in the way, we moved it out of the way, and then everything was fine. Um, Sometimes it's simply that they don't feel good about doing something because they feel like they're bad at it, like they don't know what they're doing, right? And so helping him, like, you know, if you could approach the conversation about like, "Oh, that's interesting, you never went down on your girlfriend of 8 years. What was the reason for that? I'm just curious, like, was there a reason? Did she not like it? Did you not like it?" Like, just out of curiosity, like, have that conversation and see if you can find out what some of his issues and or objections, were, for that. Because a lot of times you can find out what they are, and then you realize, "Oh, that's not even that big a deal." Like when I talked with that previous client and we were able to solve that relatively easily, um, and get him given oral to his woman. So having said all that, if at the end of the day he's still, not really doing it for you, you know, you could potentially suggest uh, that he get some help in that area. Now, here's the tricky thing about that. I do have a mini masterclass that I give to men that I'm working with on how to give great oral sex. The tricky thing with that is I've thought about trying to make it into an online course that men could just buy anonymously and work through and learn how to be good at it. The challenge I have with it is when you're really giving good oral to a woman, you can't see anything. So there isn't any good way for me to demonstrate the techniques in a video that somebody could actually watch and follow along and go, "Okay, I see what he's doing here." So it would mostly be just me talking about it, and I'm just not sure how well that's going to sell. I did do, by the way, if you're not familiar with this, I did last year. I put out a course for the ladies on how to give a great blowjob, and I did that in conjunction with a female coach named Ree Duong. I had her on my podcast. I've been on hers, and so we took the content. I did a video here on YouTube. It's one of my most popular videos on what men consider a great blowjob, and it's like I said, one of my most popular videos here, and I got a ton of comments and stuff from women like, "I didn't know that's what men wanted," and, "Oh, I picked up a couple of tips from that," and so, that's what kind of inspired me to make the course. Was there were a lot of women responding that they weren't actually aware that that's what men thought was a good blowjob. Of course, being a heterosexual male, I was like, "Ugh, I need help to teach that. Even though I know what's good to receive, I need a female perspective." And that's when Ree showed up in my life and we decided to make that course. But with that, she's able to clearly demonstrate the techniques. Whereas with the other way around, it's really hard to do. So I haven't really figured out a good way to put together a compelling course on that. The best way I've been able to teach that to men is through one-on-one coaching. Uh, so, that's always an option. I mean, if he wants to, you know, hire me for coaching, my coaching generally works in a 3-month sort of time period. So we do 2 sessions a month, every other week over 3 months, and we work on a lot of these types of, sexual skills and mastery and presence and lasting longer and all that kind of stuff. So if he's still not getting it after all of that, those are some things that you could potentially do. What you could also do, and this is a way to make it fun too, is if you're interested in doing couples sex coaching, that way it's not just about doing like him trying to figure out his problems and get his skills better. You can make it about the two of you going through this program together. And when I do couples coaching, I structure it such that some of the sessions are all of us together, some are with just the woman, and some are with just the man. And so we have opportunities to work on stuff where I get to help women with just whatever they need, and I get to help men with just what they need. And then, of course, we bring it together. Oh, Francine, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thanks for sending a little love via the super chat. Um, so that might be an option too, because sometimes when one person is like, "Hey, I think you should take this coaching course," they kind of go like, "Oh, what are you saying? I'm not good," or they can sometimes take it personally. I would hope, if my partner came to me and said, "Hey, I saw this thing and I think it'd be really cool and I think it would really help," um, you know. I would be open to it for sure, and I would hope that other men would, but I do know that a lot of them might take offense to it. So if you can do something together, that's often helpful. Francine says, that sounds like a great idea. Good, I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes it's a little hard for me to relate to this only because I've done it for so much of my life. It's such a part of who I am. Um, that I don't think about it, but, like, how I even got into doing this work is I spent years of my life going to workshops and reading books and taking courses and experimenting with partners, and doing coaching work with other people because I just wanted to learn all of this stuff for myself. That's how I really got interested in it, right? And so for me, a weekend, like a fun thing to do on the weekend would be to like go to a sensual massage workshop with my partner, right? Or take an online course, that teaches how to give great oral or something like that. Like that was just fun stuff that we would do on a regular basis. And so I highly recommend that people do that, especially if you haven't done those types of things in the past. Like, make it fun, make it something that you do together, make it great experimentation. Um, I haven't thus far really done in-person events around this type of stuff, mostly just because it's a ton of work to produce them. You have to put a lot of money out up front. There's no guarantee people will sign up. It's a little tricky and challenging. However, I have had a few colleagues express interest in wanting to create some of them together. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but there is a possibility that we could uh, potentially do some of that. And if that's the case, then you have an opportunity. It's like, hey, there's a weekend, retreat at some amazing place where Kevin and some colleagues are going to get together and teach this stuff. Like that could be a fun thing to do. So, all right, let's see here. We talked about Evelyn. We covered, and then we covered Francine with the oral sex. And then Joanne had another comment. She said, I feel that dating sites are not for me. I appreciate you. Well, they may not be. And honestly, I have heard um, from quite a few people that they get really frustrated with the dating sites and it just doesn't work for them. I hear very, very often people say, I've swiped until there's no more people to swipe. I've been on 3 or 4 different dating sites and I've swiped until there's no more to swipe. And, I just don't know what to do. And when people say that to me, I say, okay, um, I don't know how old you are, but if you're anywhere near my age, I say, you can remember what it was like before dating apps existed. And how did we do it? How did we do it before? We went out. We left the house and we went out and we did things. We met people. We went to friends' parties, or we threw parties and invited friends. We went out to do the types of things that we like to do, and we met people that way. Right? Sometimes they just turned out to be friends. Sometimes they turned out to be more than that. Sometimes those friends that we made introduced us to other friends who we ended up dating. Right? And so, I think the way we used to do it worked really well. But we just have to make it a point to get out there and do it. And that, I think, is where a lot of us fall short these days, because we have access to all this technology, because it's easy to just sit at home and be behind a screen versus actually going out. And a lot of people say, they don't want to go out and do things, on their own. They want to go do those things with somebody. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Going out and doing a lot of those things is more fun with a great partner. And until that partner shows up, one of the ways that you're going to find that partner is by going out and doing those things. And I always recommend that people go out and do the kinds of things that they like to do, not just go to the places where they think other people might be. And by that, I mean, people always think, well, if I want to go out and meet somebody, I should go to a bar or go to a club or go to something like that. And I say, okay, but do you like going to bars and clubs? Is that something that you would normally do on your own? Um, if the answer is yes, then great, go do that because you'll meet somebody that likes doing it too. But if the answer is, well, no, I'm really only going there to meet somebody, I say, well, maybe that's not the best place to meet someone because, you want to meet people that enjoy the same things that you enjoy. So, that might mean you're a church group. That might mean a meetup group or a hiking club or whatever it is, whatever your interests are. There is something out there literally for everybody. There is a group or a club for every possible hobby that you could think of. Go out and join a couple of them and see what they're like, and hopefully you'll meet somebody that shares a common interest, or you'll at least make some new friends that you'll get to hang out with and have a good time with, who will invite you to other things, right? Where you'll meet other people. And I think that's really a great way to do it. Of course, you can stay on the apps too. You don't have to get off them. Nothing wrong with that. But there's no reason why you can't do both at the same time. So, yeah, I hear your frustration on the apps, and I've heard that same frustration be shared by a lot of people. And I just wanted to offer that there are other possibilities, other ways. And, if you're going out and spending your time doing things, even if part of the intention is to meet somebody, if you don't meet somebody, you still went out and did something fun. So it's not a loss. It's not like sitting in front of the screen for 3 hours and swiping and messaging and doing all of that and going, wow, I just wasted 3 hours of my life. Because that's how a lot of people feel about it. So. All right, all right. Well, we are just about at the hour. I want to thank everybody who showed up, everybody who asked questions. I really appreciate your support. I want to thank Francine again for doing the super chat. And of course, encourage others, if you got value out of this, to please, drop a little gift in the super chat. And of course, as always, just keep watching my videos. By the way, if you have an idea of a topic that you want me to do a video on, then please share it. Drop it here, email me. I'm happy to make content that is the kind of things or the topics, the subjects that you want to know more about. So please feel free to do that. Of course, make sure that you are subscribing to the channel because that really helps. Like the videos, share them with your friends. And again, if you ever need help with sex, love, or relationship, consider hiring me to be your guide, your coach. I would be happy to do that. And I really love working one on one with people. So, alrighty, thanks for showing up today. I really appreciate you all, and I will see you back here next week, next Tuesday, same time. That's the regular schedule, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thanks again, everybody, and I will see you next week.